Okay, so good morning, guys. How are we this morning?
What's up?
Good morning.
Ooh, it's a beautiful, beautiful Saturday morning. This is what we love to do, RAPHA in our highest on a Sabbath. Come on. Time to just bask in, take in, reflect, meditate, get still, get quiet, connect, resonate. So much happens on our Sabbath. So thank y'all for just, again, honoring the commitment that we have one to another, but most importantly, to God, and taking the time to make moments in time holy. And so thank y'all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we all just breathe in for 1 second?
Yeah.
Titus, will you lead us in some form of breath exercise,
Well,
just to get us going?
Really like a friend of mine recommended one day for us to just breathe, not changing, not adjusting, to be able to just sit together and breathe. So let's take about 30 seconds right now. I'll start the timer in about 2 seconds and just breathe and begin. Now take a moment to notice your breath, notice your body relaxing, your shoulders relaxing, your neck. The sensations in your lungs, in your spine, in your muscles. Lengthen your inhales, soften your exhales, relaxing your face. Tuning into your body, tuning into your breath, tuning into your space, and becoming aware and open to whatever we may receive and you may receive in this time. We'll take one final exhale, and then deep inhale, and softly return to normal breathing. Thank you, Ashley.
Ooh, wow. Powerful. Powerful. Thank you, twin. Thank you, twin. To those of you who do not know, we are RAPHA. I am Ashley. Our facilitator of breath was Titus. Titus, would you like to say something?
Peace, you guys. Welcome to our space. I'm glad to be here, to share, to enjoy, to heal, to connect.
And the other counterpart of RAPHA, huge dynamic voice and intender. Don't even know if that's a word, but guess what? We can make up words here. Is Chauncey. Chauncey, please greet our family.
Good morning. Good morning. Peace and love to you guys. Thank you so much for creating this space, Ashley and Titus. Can't wait to see what this is going to be.
Ooh, it's already something amazing. And as a family, we just invite in all those who love God, all those who have an understanding of who He is and may not quite understand who He is, but feel His presence and just acknowledge Him and acknowledge your existence and your purpose and your intention, even being alive. We honor you and we just thank you and we welcome you to our family. So this morning, guys, I want to start us off with an intention through a question. Okay, are y'all yielded? Y'all open?
Yes.
Okay. As we were preparing, I could just feel the impression of the Holy Spirit connecting. And I want you to take a moment now before you give me your answer. Sit and reflect with it. Give me one word or an emotion that describes your perspective of you during this time of isolation and transition. I'll repeat it one more time so you can sit with it. Give me one word. Ooh. How about let's use the first initial of our name to try to describe the emotion, or just a word that describes your perspective of you, not everything going on around you, of you during this time of isolation and transition. And of course, we're speaking of quarantine. So
yeah, the whole quarantine process,
quarantine.
that phase we're in right now.
That thing has a big name right now. But what I want us to exalt over that is just an honesty and a perspective of you throughout all of this. Give me one word of emotion. While you're sitting with it, I'll give mine. Ashley, the beginning initial is A. I would say my word or emotion, probably the word, would be awakened.
Awakened.
Awakened. I was at a state of becoming more and more aware before quarantine took place, before we knew anything of this magnitude, a pandemic could come in our midst. So I was on a track of being aware, more and more aware. It was actually a word I pulled in a healing circle that I was a part of. But through isolation and through just what quarantine has done, I mean, putting you in an incubator, I can say I have now leveled up into an awakening. Feel there are two different perspectives in being aware and awakened. So that's my word that I would share. Anybody? Chauncey, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited right now. You know, I come out of a Pentecostal Baptist background, so I think of everything. You took me into the sanctuary, and it's really funny because I knew the feeling before I knew its name, and so while you were talking, luckily because I'm online, I was able to look up emotions, and so the first idea that came to my mind was courage. And no one else is going to be able to shout on this the way I am. But some of you were in a room with me about 4 months ago. And I was praying that God would call me, bring me, usher me into courage. It was my wish for the year. And the first idea that came to my mind was courage. But courage is not necessarily an emotion, so I had to look up.
That's why I said the word. It could be a word or an emotion.
But I found something better that even more appropriately describes the place that I'm sitting in, and it is conscious confidence. I have a conscious confidence about not only my ability to successfully be in this space. And when I say be, I'm not just talking about surviving, because as a community leader and a giver, God has called me to generosity in this season. I have to do more than just survive. I have people who I have made myself responsible for. And so the conscious part allows me to take in my surroundings and be aware. That's why I'm living in an awareness of how, not only how I'm doing, but how my mother is doing, how my family's doing, how my friends are doing, how you guys are doing. I think about you constantly. I don't know if you know this, but you weigh on my mind. So there's a conscious confidence that even as I become more aware of exactly how painful and how deep and unexpected this season is, I have been called, I have been chosen, I have been set apart for such a time as this. And all I have to do is show up.
That's right.
And give myself permission to engage, and everything I need, I'll find in abundant supply. So that's why you took me into the sanctuary.
But no, and I love even how you expounded upon that, and how creative. You didn't just give an interpretation. You actually sought it out in your seek. I believe you think you went to Google, or you think you got on, the internet, but you actually just positioned yourself to get more clarity. And so I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. And speaking of permission, Titus, we give you permission in this moment to share your perspective.
Come through, Segway.
I hate you.
Permission granted.
In all love.
I want to. You said the word should come from the first initial, right?
Yeah, you have many names, so you could go
between
type and do whatever.
This is true. I'm gonna go with a fairly non-peaceful word, actually.
Okay.
Tumultuous. I felt very tumultuous in this time. And as the word came to my mind, I imagined, you know how for those of us who have dryers that are see-through, and you see it turning.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of how I felt.
Wow. You felt the turbulence, all of that. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Because I feel so much, and I sense so much, every or so many of the energies and feelings that are existing now in a very, very nationwide, community-wide, worldwide sense.
Absolutely.
They're everywhere, and I'm feeling them all, and I'm personally being drawn into them all, having to decide where to go, how to go, why to go, when to go.
Absolutely.
So I feel tumultuous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, I got to round all this here because the beauty in this truly to me is another notion as to why I believe all of this is going on. If I could give a God consciousness or God perspective, so to speak, I believe this is giving us permission to see all of humanity and how we're all going through something different in the same experience. Okay, so, and out of relationship, I believe once we give audience to people's points of transition, people's points of perspective, we can bring a lot more hope and healing when we can readily identify some things within ourselves, and then have an open space to be able to share, so we can commune and connect that way. So I first want to honor you both just for sharing that, because look at even in the difference of our names, look at the difference of our perspective in the same position. Me being awakened, Chauncey receiving what was it again?
Conscious confidence.
And then you, twin, over there in sensitive nature and empathy, is feeling the emotion of all as you are trying to communicate.
Communicate.
Your perspective of you is inclusive of the whole world. Does that make sense? I just think that that's powerful, and it's leading me to pose another question. Is that okay with you guys?
Oh yeah, take your time.
So, y'all that are in the room, thank you. I want you to sit with that same word. I want you to sit with the same emotion and ponder on your own perspective of what you're going through this time. Give yourself space and grace and room to be able to reflect and connect even with self, because that's what isolation is doing. You can even feel like you've lost something in this, or you could feel like you've gained something. And I would venture to say we all have lost something in this, but we've all gained something in this. And to me, that's just the heart of God. That's my interpretation. That's my understanding. That's my perspective of him, is that when he says, you never really lose. You're gaining. And so in this time of quarantine, in this time of isolation, where you feel like the government has told you to get somewhere and sit down, where you feel like this pathogen has come in and positioned you at home, you actually can sit and process the things that you feel like you lost. I would imagine people feel like they lost their sense of freedom. They lost their sense of, y'all throw out another word to me.
Liberty. Oh yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Connection.
Connection.
Social energy.
Titus, give me some. Consistency. Yeah. I mean, everything got disrupted, right? But what did you really lose? I lost. If I'm more awakened now, I lost some things that kept me in denial. I lost some things that may have kept me bound in fear. I was met with a lot of isolation. Just puts you in a real place. It really kind of draws you into self, but it brings up everything else. So maybe where I thought I was gonna lose in money, I didn't. I gained. And so I want y'all to kind of just chime in with your perspective of maybe something you thought you lost during this time, and then something you've gained. Anybody?
First, let me say, you hit a chord for me when you are talking about loss, and I know that loss is real and loss is important. And I am a person. The first couple of weeks that this started, I literally was grieving. I was literally grieving the same way I grieve when I lose a very close friend or family member. And unfortunately, I've had to do that many, many times. So I knew the emotion, but what caused me to be slow in my movement and my communication in that moment is because I was not aware. No one told me when you lose someone, you have permission and space to grieve that loss. There's all these systems and institutions and processes that we put in place to give you space, even in our colors, even in our voices, even in our music, our media. We surround ourselves with things that give us permission to honor and acknowledge the loss.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand why I found so much grief in my heart, because I couldn't identify the thing that I lost.
Yeah,
and so it literally took me 2 weeks. I almost couldn't speak. And then someone said, I found a meme on Instagram, and I've actually reposted it. It said, grief, it's the feeling you're feeling right now. And when I saw that, I was like,
you identified it immediately.
I was like, yes. And then once I gave myself permission to acknowledge that it was grief, then there was a flood of things that began to come to me that I had lost. And so I was like, oh, isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
And one of the things, I'm a mover. I experience life in movement. My day starts from the time I get in my car, turn the key, turn on my radio, and head to the place where I work.
Okay.
That's my sunrise.
Okay.
And so that was one of the first things that I began to become aware that I had lost, was I was not in control of the choreography of my day anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't start. I was in this place of stillness. And I hadn't chosen to be there. That choice was made for me.
Okay.
And I felt some kind of way about that. I mean, I'm the kind of person, I would have snuck out when I was a kid. I did not take kindly to anybody telling me
what to do.
Where I couldn't go. What do you mean I can't go? I've decided that I want to go. I'm going. You may not like where I'm going, but I am heading forward nonetheless. And so that was one of the big things that I lost. The other thing I was going to say, I'm in several classes online now, and one of them is a leadership and management course. And the guy says losing is a matter of perspective. And it's to your second point. Either you win or you learn, but you never lose.
There you go.
I love that. I love that. I like the fact I can still hold my grief because I think it's important. Yeah. I can still give space to it. But after that, after I grieve, there are lessons in why moving and leaving to start my day. Why do I have to move and leave to start my day?
Yeah.
What's that about?
What is that about? Absolutely.
I've created something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why have I created that? Why is it necessary for me? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it immediately starts a cycle, a curve of learning. And I think I feel like a lot of us are in similar places right now.
Absolutely. Even as you were speaking and you were talking in the context of loss, I heard a lot of gain. One point being giving yourself permission to grieve. Again, we don't get pauses like that until a loss comes in or to something that appears as a loss. But when you're a child of God, which we all are, He created us all.
Right.
Whether we acknowledge Him or not, the healed perspective is I never really lose, I gain. If I've been thought of, intended for, if I've been purposed, if someone had a distinct plan for me and plan for my life, whether it's known to me or not, and my trust in its concept, the concept could be an actual being, it could be a thought, all of these derive from God. The perspective now is you really didn't lose. You gained. And so I love that you shared, even in grief. I mean, who thinks of grief as a winning point or a game perspective or something added to you? And so thank you for sharing that. I mean, all of that had such weight to it and you navigated it. To those that are listening, I pray that you have found even something that you can resonate with even now. And I want you to think on that. What have you lost in this time and what have you gained? But I'm going to bring in another perspective. Titus, come on, hit us hard. Hit us with your perspective of what you truly thought or think that you lost in something in which you gained.
Hey, so I'm grateful for Chauncey because he actually provided some perspective on what I was going to respond with. I didn't. My first thought was direction. I lost direction because the consistency, like I said earlier, the consistency of my day, of my rhythm, of my movement, of my time, that had been shifted drastically.
Yeah.
So I lost direction. But from what Chauncey was saying, I didn't really lose anything. And something that I personally kind of held to over the past probably 3 years is the beauty of letting go. And there's a power in letting go.
Come on, talk about it.
Really didn't lose. None of us really lose anything per se. Yes, something is no longer with us.
Right.
But because of the way that I try my best to live my life now, I live my life in an allowance of movement and change.
That's good.
So
that's good.
I'm not pressed. Because I'm human, and we rely on something.
Yeah.
That something, whether it be physical or schedule wise, whatever. When that was taken away, there was a moment of okay, what the hell?
Yeah.
But then,
absolutely,
in that next moment, as I've learned over the past 3 years, tune back into the rhythm of life, rhythm of my body, of nature, of movement, of spirit.
Yeah.
And then I was able to be present to feel with whatever I felt grief, I felt all these things, and then because life continues to move on, I'm going to continue to move with it as well.
There you go. So you got in a flow.
I got back into a flow, and
there you go.
As long as I feel, as long as you can choose to find a flow, then you can continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
I do still believe I did lose direction. But that loss was just literally a momentary thing. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love the beauty in you sharing, and that's such a powerful statement. And you saying you live in the flow now, even in letting go. You know, that's a powerful choice. That's gaining the understanding in choice, gaining the power again in choice that you're choosing, and your perspective is very powerful. You chose now to not see it as a loss of a direction, but maybe a realignment or an adjustment in direction. And then, you know, you look at life, period. Oftentimes we're conditioned. We're human. We're very conditioned people. We're very conditional in things. And so oftentimes something has to break down in order for us to get something new. Oftentimes something has to happen to us, but the perspective is knowing that it's happening for you. Right. If I'm pissed off that my car won't start, but if I really think back on the fact that I've been saying all year that I want a new car.
Right.
The logical reasoning aspect of yourself says, oh, well, it's not the time, or do I have the money? Well, I'm going to just keep going with this car because it's getting me from point A to point B. But in all honesty, your desire, your new perspective is you wanted a new car, right? So the car breaks down. Guess what? It forces you
That's
to
good.
get the thing that it is that you've been wanting to obtain. And so I love that you shared the gift in letting go, because it makes that not so grievous, you know, when things are happening to you. But the healed perspective is, what if it's happening for you? What if you give permission and you allow and you awaken, or you come to a higher thought life of not the victim mentality of things are happening to me.
Come on, Romans.
It could be happening for me. Exactly. And then I believe in the word of God. So Romans 8:28 from God's perspective, because he's the one who wrote a love letter to us about the totality of life. And the aged wisdom that is in the Bible. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, but who are called according to his purpose. Well, if you feel like you live a life on purpose, then things are not happening to you. The healed perspective is, it's happening for me. But how do I gain a power in that? Owning my perspective, revisiting my perspective, revisiting, reflecting, honoring. I love that you chose talking about direction, because how many times when something shifts in our life like that, does our perspective go out of the window? It's the first thing that we'll relinquish. It's the first thing that we'll let go.
Now, I did. Believe me. I did lose a little.
How could you not, in all the turbulence?
It wasn't all peace on this side of the
Absolutely. At all. Well, see, and even if I think and share my portion, a lot of this hit up against my faith. Okay, not faith in an institution, because I had already had my ideals when it came to that, and I love church and I love the body of Christ. But me going into those doors was something that I had stopped doing for a while. And so seeing a lot of times things happen to me ahead of time, and I'm not quite certain why. And then the next wave comes. But I'll share quickly. A lot of things happened during this quarantine time. My job, there was a lot of questions concerning my job, which was a part of my stability, my financial security. My bank account was hacked. So that's, again, another financial. So I believe in this time, my perspective was changing in the institution of finances. My actual financial institution had been affected. My job was starting to become affected. And then I had just stepped out on faith. I had just moved to a new place. So I believe in that. God allowed me to see the perspective was not faith in things. Get back to your perspective and just having faith, period, that it was going to work for me. And so I can testify from a healed perspective and say, I had points of turbulence and it feeling like a tumultuous time. And I was grieving the confidence that I had in things that I didn't realize I was putting weight in. But the healed perspective was, y'all, it didn't take that long for me to settle in peace. I tell you, the old part of me wanted to tear the world up. I sometimes think I'm the Hulk. I think I got more power than, this little bitty body I'm in. But y'all, I had so much peace. I just really trusted that it was all working for me. This was not happening to me. There's a blessing, there's a healing coming into the midst of our lives with this perspective of just knowing that if you really get alongside it, it's assisting you. Can I lend that? Can I lend that? So that's my perspective on that. So thank y'all for giving me the space even to share in that. So big question before we wrap up. How do you find normalcy in this space and time? How are you finding normalcy? And before you, because that's a big broad, let's find an arena. I've got some cards here. I'm gonna shuffle them. And I'm gonna see. Oh, the word is discipline.
Ooh, come through.
So sorry for those who can't see or maybe just listening. The word that I pulled is discipline. So how do I find normalcy in this space and time through the lens of discipline?
I hate that word.
Speak the truth, brother. Speak the truth. You what? He said he hates that word. So talk to me. Somebody hit me. Hit me, Buddha. Shout out to Destiny's Child.
I found normalcy in discipline through. I found normalcy through discipline by way of creating boundaries.
Ooh, I like that B word.
That
boundaries.
Big B word.
That's grown folk talk.
That's grown folk, right?
That's heal talk. That's healing talk. Keep going. I'm sorry.
There's a book called Boundaries that a friend of mine read a couple years ago. It's an awesome book. I'll share with you guys at some point.
Okay.
But in a number of different ways, and I'll try and give two, possibly three. One, in terms of time, boundaries of time, in order to properly exist and go somewhere with an end. There's got to be an end to an intentional movement or action, and normalcy is existing within a time frame is a beautiful thing too. So, giving myself a half an hour to do this thing and focus on that thing, an hour for this thing. At 4 o'clock, I'm gonna do this thing, not for anybody else, but just for myself, because I'm the one that's living, not them. And it also came in terms of boundaries from. I've been painting recently, and when you paint and are creative in any kind of way, creativity. I mean, people often think creativity is just you doing stuff freely as you just comes and feels and goes, and it is. But whenever you create anything, whether it be a canvas or a song or whatever it is, there's always a beginning and an ending. There's always a frame within which you have to put a thing.
Come on.
So boundaries are what has helped me to find discipline. That's helped me find normalcy and peace in this time.
Did y'all sit with that?
That was
good. Y'all sit with that?
That was good.
I love it. I love it. Our time is drawing close. I want to hear from Chauncey. Thank you so much, Titus, for that perspective. Woo!
That was amazing, Titus. I'm so glad you went first. No, I am. No, I am, because I would not have said what I'm going to say if I had gone first. It was beautiful. So I had to do the opposite. The way I heard Titus is the boundaries and the time were minute by minute, day by day. I had to do the opposite because I'm a doer. I'm an achiever, so I can make lists and check off stuff all day. That is not forcing me into a new discipline. What I don't do as well as is align my task to my purpose.
Okay.
So I had to go to an assignment that I have forgotten. My business manager gave me the assignment of deciding what goals I had for the year.
Okay.
And I skipped over it because I was coming up with all these other tasks. So what I had to do was I had to go and complete the goals that I had for this year in this season, knowing that a lot of the world had changed.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to think beyond the pandemic.
Okay.
It took me outside of this current space and allowed me to see myself as an eternal being with an eternal purpose.
There you go.
And even though I didn't see this season coming, this season was always right here.
Yeah.
And so I went to my purpose and began developing my goals. And you know what? I realized that they had not changed, even though I couldn't do any of the things that I plan to do right now.
Wow.
And so when I went out and identified my purpose, what I did was I backed up and said, okay, well, if I'm supposed to be here, if I'm supposed to be published this book by the end of the year, then that means in 6 months I have to be done with my manuscript, right?
Okay.
And so I backed my way all the way. Okay, so then in 2 months, and so then I was able to I create my task list, and at the end of every week, and sometimes at the end of each day, I check my task according to my larger purpose.
There you go.
And make sure the way I spend my hours matches up with how I want to spend my year.
That's good.
It changed
the game.
Everything. And let me tell you, what's happening now is when I find myself tempted to do something that I used to just do to fill time.
Yeah.
Something within me goes off like a bell and says, wait a minute, you may be enjoying this, but this is not connected to your purpose.
Absolutely.
This is not what you were called to do today. Remember your goal? You didn't work your goals out. Why take the time of coming up with goals if you weren't going to align your day to meet that goal?
Come on.
And so there was this.
So you had to get disciplined in purpose.
And let me tell you how good it is. I can stop working and turn on the television or start watching Netflix, or I just bought the Disney Plus thing. I now seek out media that brings me back to life.
There we go.
And I've realized that there's certain kinds of movies that I've been watching over the years because there are certain disciplines like economics that I have never studied, but it's a necessary part of my journey.
Absolutely.
And so I signed up for this economics course with Harvard Extension because I'm like, no, let me touch this. Let me order my days, order my tasks based on this discipline that I don't know anything about, but I'm drawn to it.
Come on.
And there's this thing about the law of attraction that explains all of this.
Absolutely.
But some of us, like myself, we're so busy doing tasks that we're not always mindful of the purpose and the goal that the task
and they can easily become aimless. They really can. So I hear in your discipline aspect, like a discipleship to that intention, a discipleship to the purpose. Disciple just means a follower, a student, a pupil of. And so you've gotten back into the school of purpose. So I absolutely love you sharing that. My quick note before we get out of here, what I've disciplined myself in is being disciplined in the boundary of balance. I had to get balance. Then I had to put a boundary around balance and maintain the framework of what that looks like from school, from life, from my job, from my family, to even time, my perspective of time, and to family, and to finances, and to my future. I had to put a parameter around that thing and have a more healed perspective with discipline in that regard. And so that's my portion. Not to rush us off, but our time limit is here. The time has drawn now nigh. I pray that everybody has gotten something from this. Thank you guys for having another beautiful Sabbath moment with us, and just helping us gain a little more clarity and perspective during this time of quarantine and isolation, which I really believe has just been a gift for us to get back to our personal purpose, our personal goals in life. And so we're gonna see you guys soon. The whole family, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for joining us in. You are a part of family. We need you. You need us. We need each other to continue to heal as things are revealed. And so follow us on Instagram, RAPHA_collective. Please join us. Come connect with us. And also Facebook, RAPHA, just RAPHA. And come and connect. Your presence means everything to us. We love you. Anything, guys, before you send us off, you want to send love to them?
Oh, no, you got it.
No. Okay. You good? Peace and love to you guys.
That you can
go ahead.
Share on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, your own thoughts, your own feelings.
Join in the conversation.
This conversation that we had today, you guys can continue with yourselves, your family, or online via social media too. So just kind of hop in and share and join.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much, Titus, for highlighting that. Comment, like, love, share, answer these questions. What have you lost during this time? What do you think you've lost? What have you gained? What's your perspective? What's your one word that you are meditating on within yourself during this time of isolation? And then tell us a little bit about the aspect of normalcy in your space and time with discipline. Stay in the conversation with us, and we'll be joining in the conversation back on social media. So just know that just because the live stopped, we've not stopped. We're going to continue. I love you guys so much. I really do. Thank you for being open and honest, but most importantly, thank you for RAPHA and the heal perspective. We'll see you soon. Love you.
Love you too.
Peace, y'all.
All right, bye-bye. Peace.